Evening, Sector 001. I'm TJ Esnak, your host for the Jupiter Station podcast. And tonight's guest is somebody who has been with the Star Trek community since at least I was a child. Um, you'll know him most notably within Star Trek as Spock's half brother, Sybok. But tonight we'll be talking with him about his recently released memoirs called Effective Memories: How Chance in the Theater Saved My Life. Without further ado, let's welcome Laurence Luckinbill.
Hi there. Are we on Jupiter?
Bill. Say again?
Are we on Jupiter?
I wish. I got to look out the windows for a second just to double check. How are you tonight, Mr. Luckinbill?
How are you? I'm good.
So far, so good. Can I call you Larry?
Yes.
Awesome. Larry, thank you for taking time out of your schedule to meet with us tonight.
Okay.
So I've been doing some digging. You've got a rather serious resume.
Yeah, I do.
For some of the whippersnappers on my show, could you give us a brief background?
Could I what?
Could you give us a brief background?
A brief background. Yes. I was an actor, am an actor for the last 63 years. I pursued every form that there is, from the theater to television to film and all manner of things. And now we're doing talk shows and all that stuff. I performed 27 plays of Shakespeare. I worked with John Lithgow's daddy, Arthur Lithgow, to do that. I also have made 26 movies. There are only two that I can stand watching. One is the Boys in the Band, where I played a gay man back in the day when you weren't supposed to do that. And the other one is Star Trek V, because they're the two that where I connected best on screen, I think. And I should add a third one, which is my one-man show called Lyndon, about Lyndon Johnson. It's actually Lyndon Johnson talking. And that was the first of four plays, which I called Great Americans, which I wrote about Lyndon Johnson, Clarence Darrow, the great lawyer, Teddy Roosevelt, and Ernest Hemingway. And I performed all of those for 35 years all over the world, and especially here in the country. And that was when I really felt I had reached the thing that I wanted to do in my life, because the dysfunctional way that my family was, I was always searching for social justice. I didn't know it at the time, of course, but Sybok is searching for social justice as well. So that fit, and it turned out that the play that I did, that play for 3 years, Boys in the Band, and then the movie, which came out in 1970, was also a search for social justice for gay people. So that's kind of a very brief resume. I'm from Arkansas. I grew up in the Ozarks, and I couldn't wait to fly out of there. And so I've got a couple of little things I could read to you from the book. I assume you have not had a chance to get the book.
I took a brief listen to it last night on Audible.
Oh, good.
As read by you, I have to know.
Yes.
But if you want to read something out of the book, by all means, I am all ears, and I'm sure my audience is too.
All right, let me just read how it starts. One of the ways it starts. I have about 4 starts, but this one I like. Scene: Fort Smith, Arkansas. Home. I believed I could fly and decided to try. I climbed as high as I dared and looked down. The ground was pretty far away. I looked out past the wet, weedy grass, the patches of bare ground, to the chicken coop holding up the leaning barn, and over a broken fence to the alley, the green and shadowed place. No man's land. I would fly that far. My little sister, Lynn, looked up at me. She looked scared. Did I? No, I knew I could fly. I checked to see if my cape was ready to flare out behind me when I soared across the yard. I wanted that effect. I would not go high. This was a test flight. I stuck out an arm, pointing in the direction of my flight. This would help me level off in a horizontal position. I took a breath. I stepped out into the air and fell straight down. I hit the soft summer earth with one foot in front of the other. It was the pose I wanted, but the pain of the landing spoiled it. My sister, as always, was sympathetic. She didn't laugh. Neither did I. I was mad. I undid the safety pins holding the threadbare towel to the collar of my too large t-shirt. My cape hadn't performed as expected. A design problem. I had failed. But what was one failure? What about the Wright brothers? I knew I would try again, like them. Never mind that I didn't have an airplane. I had a strange power. I needed to fly. I had to. I was 9 years old. My sister was 5. I had just jumped off the back porch of our little house in Arkansas and dropped about 7 feet to the ground. Some flight, some might say. But it was the first of many tries to fly in many ways all my life. I'm 89 years old now. My sister was 5. I had just jumped off the back porch. Oh, wait a minute, I'm jumping. My sister, if only she were still here, would be 84. Before she left, I asked her if she remembered the event that summer day. She said yes, and I thought you were crazy and brave. I admired you. I thought, if he can do it, so can I. Here's what I know now. If you have to do something you really believe in, do it. Even when it hurts. Just be sure that you are the only one it hurts. And you can't know if just by the act of trying, you might inspire someone, even be a mentor.
Powerful.
It's the way I have felt all my life, that I had to fly. I had to escape. Actors, actually, people that survive the system and actually succeed as actors are people who must escape. They have to escape from their life circumstances into the character of someone else. And it's a very strange way to live, actually. But I've lived that way all my life, and I would never do anything else in my life, even though I'm walking with a cane now. If you ask me what I really want to do, is to dump the cane and walk onto a stage and uh, act, these plays again. My one man shows. They're great Americans, and the reason I was so lucky to be cast as Lyndon Johnson, even though I fought it. I tried desperately to get out of it because I was afraid. I was scared because he's such an iconic man and so disliked actually at the time. But all that stuff changes as people recognize the difficulty of being the president of the United States. People they don't they 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 tend to look back uh, with much greater kindness at the presidents of the past. So that's kind of where I'm at. I got my
Oh,
glasses because it's hard to see you now in the spaceship there.
oh yeah, I'm in the conference room, and I don't know if we're going all that fast, but
Oh, you probably you're not. It looks to me like you are.
can you see me now? That
Yeah, yeah,
that
yes,
okay,
yes, yeah, yeah.
perfect. Um, so um, how far back did you want to be an actor? Was that like a childhood thing, or was it later in life?
No, no, I had no idea. Um, I what I knew was that I wanted something higher, something better, something finer. There had to be something finer out there than the 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 way I was brought up and the way I grew up in a place with almost no culture. It had a culture, but it was not a high culture. It was the culture of the working man, and um, so what I that's all I knew about my life, and I was a slacker, uh, a self-described slacker in high school, and also the class clown. And I didn't know why I was doing these things. It pissed off my father very much, but my father was an alcoholic, so uh, he and I were at loggerheads quite a lot in my life. But anyway, my mother and the two nuns that were my high school uh, surrogates, really, uh, I didn't realize it, but they had a plan for me, which was that I would get out of high school in 3 years and go to the junior college in my town, which had just opened. It was $100 a year, and and they thought I had something on the ball. They thought there was something to me, more than I thought. I thought I'd be happy to be running a gas station or uh, managing a Dairy Queen or going into the army, like most of my friends were. And but they kicked me out of high school and into this junior college where I all of a sudden began a connection with the arts. And here's how it was. My professor, one of my professors, took a bunch of us over to a place in Conway, Arkansas, which is halfway between Fort Smith, where I was living, and Little Rock. And we were to attend a lecture. Well, you know what students feel about attending a lecture. It was everybody was like, oh yeah, okay, we'll
You mean
endure
they
it.
weren't like, "Yay, let's go check it out"?
Yeah, well, yeah, sure, yeah. Is there going to be any popcorn? Anyway, we went into this theater, and the stage was bare except for a podium. And suddenly, a man walked out. It wasn't a very imposing looking man. He was rather short and rather tubby, but he had great gray hair coming down to, and this was 1951 or 2. You didn't have long hair in those days, especially an adult. Anyway, this man crossed the stage with an armload of books, and he dropped them onto the podium. Bang! That woke us up. And then he opened the first book. Snap! That woke us up. What's he doing? And he said, in the beginning was the heavens and the earth. It was the beginning of the Bible. And he read for 2 hours poetry, American poetry, British poetry, Shakespeare, uh, gorgeous stuff. And of all of the students who were there, it turned out I was the only one who was hit by lightning from this experience with this man. Back his what he was doing on that stage said something to me like oh my God, this is the way to reach people. This is a way to reach out and find out what life is really all about. So I was a pre-med student at that time, so I thought, but I didn't know a damn thing about chemistry, biology, uh, physics, anything. I flunked every single subject. And as I went to the University of Arkansas the next year, I flunked again. So I flunked everything that would make me a pre-med into a medical student, totally. And my professor, the one who failed me from the chemistry that sunk me, said to me, "You belong not in the sciences." He said, "Mr. Luckinbill, you have entertained us royally this term." He said, "You may not know it, but I have eyes in the back of my head, and you have a very good imitation of me." And I was busted, it was terrible. But he said, "But I learned something from you about teaching that I could perhaps do better." And he said, "I'm going to tell you something that you're not going to like." He said, "You do not belong in the sciences. You belong in the performing arts." Well, I was devastated. I then tried to get into the dental school. Again, failure, total failure. And then I had to go, my parents had moved to California, so I had to go back home on the Trailways bus and tell them that this was what had happened to me, that I was not going to be a doctor. And of course, it was pretty rough for my mother because my mother was the one that really led the family, and she was my father didn't give much of a shit what we did, and I can appreciate that. But anyway, uh, my mother took me to an aptitude test in Berkeley. I'd never been to Berkeley to university or anything, and I failed the aptitude test. Now, how do you fail an aptitude test? Well, I managed. And again, my mother, on the way back on the bus on Telegraph Road, she was doing her rosary the entire time. And then there came a kind of serenity to her. And I said, "Mom, don't worry about me." And she started to cry. And she turned to me and she said, "Larry, you have just got to have a chance. Just got to have a chance." Well, I cried too. And I still cry hearing her voice saying that. And that's where the title comes from. Chance. Chance, it matters, and the things that fall into your lap and that you weren't even thinking about. And also the things that people wish for you, that you have a chance. And so my life has been actually led by those dreams, those thoughts. So, and it took me 11 years in New York to get any attention. And when I did get attention, it was for playing a gay man. And I'm not a gay man; I'm straight. But my wife's here somewhere, and I have 5 children. So anyway, that's a kind of a story that the book is. But the book also deals with my failures, my huge failures to deal with other people, because I didn't know how. I was cut off from my family because of the dysfunction of the fights, and I had to fight my father a couple of times, and I didn't. I actually backed away from the family mentally, and so that led to a lifetime where I didn't treat people as well as I ought to have. It wasn't that I was mean. I wasn't. I've always been a nice guy, but when it came to women, I didn't know how to treat women at all. Um, and friends I would make and then never call them. And people complained to me, you never call. And I would go, what? I didn't? Oh, So it's been a very interesting life, and the book is the book is honest. That's the best thing I can say about it. But people actually love it, and I get calls. I got a call yesterday from someone who uh, I barely know who really loved reading the book. So I think you'll get something out of it if you keep listening.
Oh, most definitely. And I'll be honest, Larry. I've thought of you strictly as Sybok for at least the last 30 years,
Yes,
and the the conversation you and I are having right now is incredibly inspiring, and I can very much relate with quite a few of
I do.
your items.
Yes, many people can. Many people were raised that same way, kind of lost in a family that couldn't cope. Uh, but but I have to say, with 4 kids, I was born in the worst year of the Depression, 1934, and, uh, my parents had 4 kids, all, uh, disparate by about 5 years each. So we kind of removed from each other because we were different ages. But, uh, I'm the only one left in my family. I'm the oldest. I've outlived my mother, my father, all of my siblings, and, um, I feel that, as the remnant of this Luckinbill clan, I owe quite a lot to society and to my own children and especially to my wife, Lucy Arnaz, and, of course, uh, I guess it's not unlike many people's lives, I guess.
I completely agree. In fact, it reminds me of something that my grandmother has told me. Um, and she's a little bit older than you. I think she's going to be 97 this year.
Oh my good.
Um,
Well,
but
wish you well from me.
oh, I totally will. But she has a saying: "Hell doesn't want her, and heaven's afraid she'd take over."
What?
Hell doesn't want her, and heaven is afraid she'll take over.
Well, she's got some spunk, right?
She spunk is definitely
Yeah,
in large supply with her.
yeah. Where are you now at this
Um,
moment?
at this moment, despite what my background might say, I'm actually in Eastern Connecticut,
Okay, where? How far?
just across the river from Groton, so
From where?
submarine capital of the world.
Oh, wait a minute. Say that again.
Submarine capital of the world.
Oh, yes, of course. Yeah. Well,
I have.
we lived in Weston for seven years.
Oh, awesome! Yeah, I have a bird's eye view right now of the USS Nautilus Museum.
Oh my God. Yeah. Yes. Well, I used to take my kids up to that place. We would drive up from Weston. Uh, but uh, and I love to go to Mystic too and look at the whaling boat and all of that stuff and basically eat the soup.
Oh, absolutely. My brood and I are making a trip there next weekend. So,
Oh, yeah, good.
um, so actually, let me ask. I'm also a member of a Star Trek fan club, and one of my friends within the club asked me how you feel about having a hidden sister now,
A
referring
hidden
to Star Trek Discovery.
as a sister,
Yeah, they did an episode within Star Trek Discovery. It's one of the newer Trek shows,
right?
and Spock has an adopted sister, Michael Burnham.
I'm
So
so
basically,
glad.
I'm like, it's like, you know what, Dave? I'll ask him. I'm not sure how he'll react, but I'll ask him.
No, I'm so glad. Sybok has had very few friends out there because of his outlier position in the family. And, it was kind of weird too because Leonard really wanted to play both roles. And Bill, of course, said, no, 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 Leonard, you're not going to do that. I'm going to cast this movie. And, it worked out that way. And actually, he cast me, Bill cast me because he was in some hotel on a Sunday night with nothing to do. And he was kind of pissed off about that. So he turned on the TV to NPR. And there I was playing Lyndon Johnson on an hour and a half movie about Johnson's life. And he cast me as Sybok based on that. And I thought, what's the connection? Well, I can tell you if you want to know more about that, I can tell you.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
Yeah. So when I was at Paramount, and I had been met by the producer and Bill and the writer and a couple of other guys, I don't know, and they had actually stood up and shaken my hand, which you never get in Hollywood at all. And so something strange was up, and Bill said, I would like you to play Sybok, and I want you to pick up a script. And the producer said, well, Bill, how about we ask Mr. Luckinbill if he really is interested in this project? And I said, well, I am, sir. So anyway, they gave me the script and they said, read it and let us know by tomorrow morning. Well, I read the script that night. I read it again in the early morning around 6 o'clock. And I called up the office as soon as it was open and said, I'm in. And they said, great. And I knew almost nothing about Star Trek at the time. I did not know what a vast world encroaching story it is. I had no concept of it, but I immediately began learning that the people take it seriously because it is a serious piece of work. And I also learned being after our movie was finished and another movie, they then went to there was a hiatus, and then they started making the new movies with Chris Pine, and I immediately saw what the difference was. All of a sudden, the Star Trek of the great stories of people searching for people to connect with in the vastness of this incredible space we live in, had changed to pure action, not much story. The story always being some jeopardy that Chris Pine was in, and there was a lot of CGI involved, which of course the old movies didn't have access to, and thank God, because whatever the effects were, they were simple, and Bill got criticized for the movie by the critics, and I thought that was very unfair because, well, first of all, when Bill succeeded in casting me, he said, I want to know how you see the role of Sybok. So let's have lunch, and I'll call you, and we'll have lunch, and you can tell me what you think. And nothing happened after that. And I thought, well, it's so too bad for that. Then I get a call from Bill. I want you to meet me at the juice bar at Santa Monica. tomorrow morning at 7. So I went there and we're enjoying our little juices. And he said, well, how do you see this role? And I said, Lenin. He said, John? I said, no, Vladimir. He said, what? I said, Vladimir Lenin, the dictator of Russia. He said, well, wait a minute. How does that work? And I said, Lenin began with a great heart to try to change Russia for the better, to try to free the serfs, to try to create a better society. But as the obstacles piled up and it became uh, a war to get what they thought they wanted, the socialists, he became a dictator, and he went downhill, and so did all of the Russian. And he said, "Well, okay, all right, I get that. I get that, Larry." He said, "But don't say this to anybody else because we don't want anybody thinking we're doing a commie movie here." So
Well, I mean, they had Klingons, and if I remember, the Klingons were loosely based on the Russians anyway, so
yes, they were. Yeah.
it wouldn't have been that far out. But I always got a little bit of a Lenin feel from it for the same reasons that you just mentioned. Like he started out meaning well, and
Yes.
then as he progresses, it snowballs, and then finally there's that last scene where he's like, "Oh my God, what did I do?" Like, and he has this moment of self realization, like, "Oh my God, I did this.
Yes.
We're in
Yes.
trouble because of me," and that's when he sacrifices himself to help his brother and his brother's best
Thank
friend
you.
and make sure they get.
You got it. I actually insisted that I don't carry one of those rock guns. I said because Sybok would not have a gun. He was not that guy. He didn't need a gun. He had a great force. Let me take your pain. And as he discovered, even that was not enough to change the world. It's strange, isn't it? Because we're living in a world right now where it would seem so simple for people to get together and change and take care of the climate, take care of our where we're living, but it seems impossible to get them together. And I suppose that kind of frustration would lead somebody to try to be a dictator. But I know that Sybok uh, truly loved his brother, and his brother was a little standoffish to him because that was the brother's nature. But when it finally came down to that moment at the very end, where we touched hands like this, I felt so good, and I was empowered then as Sybok. I wasn't thinking as Larry, just empowered to challenge this crazy God I had made up. And so that's heroic.
So he wasn't really a villain per se.
No,
Like at the end of the
no.
movie, he was a hero.
Yes, he was. He was, which was rare because most of the movies with those kind of characters were bad guys, like Ricardo and whoever the other guy was.
Wow. And I'll be honest, I've had this conversation with quite a few of my guests, is that the Star Trek community is one of the most welcoming communities they've worked with. And the
Yes,
fans are such loving people and respectful, and you know you have people who are college students and doctors and garbage men, like everybody from different walks of life, and they
you
all
bet.
get along on one thing.
Yes. I learned that to myself, and I only did one uh, convention at Caesar's Palace before this one that we just did in Vegas again, just now, last a month ago. But anyway, um, at the first one I was at uh, I came down to the diner before I was supposed to go on and talk about talk, make my speech, and as Larry Sybok. And I was having breakfast, and a woman sat down next to me on a stool, and she was very pretty, and she was rather tall and slender. And I noticed these things. And I finished breakfast, and I got up, and I said, uh, "You're dressed like a Star Trek person." She said, "Yes, yes." I said, "Oh, what do you do?" She said, "I teach uh, astrophysics at Harvard." I thought, "Whoa!" So the quality of people who are Star Trek fans, they're not just fans; they're actually participators in the search for new characters, the new things that we can find out about space and all of that. So I'm very interested in that. And I found this last time about a month ago in Vegas. I was also selling the book, and people were very, very nice, very kind, and they were also very intelligent people. They were members of a tribe of some sort, and I thought, well, I'm in the right place.
Well, I, for one, am very thankful because a lot of my Star Trek filter is because of watching your characters, like watching Sybok go through his process, and starting out meaning well, and then ultimately doing right by his brother. And a lot of my guests have heard that a lot of what I do is very much filtered through my view of Star Trek. You know, I I've become an EMT and a firefighter. I'm a dad.
Yeah.
Currently, I'm a special needs school bus driver,
Uh-huh.
and a lot of what I see the world as, I see through a Star Trek filter.
Yes. Yes, I can see that because you're out there doing things that are service things, and they're dangerous things.
I often tell my fire chief that being a school bus driver is just slightly more dangerous than being a firefighter, because as a firefighter, we get off the truck and it's a different building, but we do the same thing every time.
Yeah.
The only time I, as a school bus driver, do the same thing is when I do my morning check of the bus and when I get back in the afternoon. Between those 2 points, it's
It's
okay, good luck.
anything can happen. Anything can happen. Yeah. Where and uh, where do you drive?
I'm actually a school bus driver in the next town over. I'm in Norwich,
Norwich. Okay.
the Rose of
Right.
New England.
You know, we lived in the town where Hines is. He lives there. He's your representative, and Chris Murphy lives in
Oh,
West.
okay, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm very impressed with those two guys. They're
They're definitely making us proud here in Connecticut too. So
they're, they're the best of the best, I think. Yeah, and this whole business of service is terribly important to me too. I I found my way to serve people by acting, by becoming someone else, by looking through someone else's eyes, and I didn't know at the time that I wanted to do it, why I was doing it, but as I went through a lifetime of it, of struggle to get the parts, and then struggle to change and stay even with the system and all of that. It took it out of me, but on the other hand, it gave me so much back, and I'm very, very grateful at
and
age 90 to have experienced this. And I must say that my kids are all grown up. They're adult children, but they were all very anxious to come up to Vegas and check me out, on that convention.
And I mean, like I said at the beginning of our interview, you have an epic resume.
A
I
what?
mean, a very epic resume.
Yes,
From
yes,
the boys in the band, which at the time was a very cutting edge LBGTQ production. It's very cutting edge. It was very inspirational for a lot of people.
yes,
Star Trek. I've seen you in the Mary Tyler Moore Show.
yes.
I saw that clip. I'm like, oh, I remember that. That was Sybok. I couldn't understand. Like, wait, how did I miss this? Like years
So
ago.
I remember Mary saying on the show, "He doesn't like my pizza." I said, "I don't like it either." It was such a good show. That was a funny
and
show. Yeah.
and when I told my wife who I was interviewing tonight, I said, "So yeah, he played a Vulcan in Star Trek V," and she's like, "Okay." I said, "Oh, and I said he's the son-in-law of Lucille Ball,"
Yeah.
and my wife's like, "What?" Because my wife loves the work that your late mother-in-law did.
Of course.
Like
Of
she's
course.
teaching our 4-year-old daughter.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
one of my favorite Christmas presents that I gave her, somebody had done a painting of your late mother-in-law in a Star Trek uniform.
Oh,
Because back when they had the first pilot, as we all know, it didn't perform very well.
right. Didn't.
Well, Gene Roddenberry wanted to do a second pilot, but
Yeah.
NBC said, we're really not comfortable giving you the money for this.
Right.
But Lucy said, I have a studio you can use too. Like, I will fund it and you can use my studio. And that's the
No,
studio that later became the full Paramount Pictures.
but you know what came before that? They told her the title, Star Trek, and she said to somebody, "Is that like a, a musical show where they're talking about actors going out to sell war bonds or something?"
Oh,
And Gary Morton, who was her husband, said, "No, no, no." He was a fan of Star Trek. He said, "No, no, Lucy, it's a space show." And the story is that what's his name? Who I'm
Gene
sorry,
Roddenberry?
yeah, Roddenberry uh, sold it to them to Desilu with I think it's 4 words. Uh, oh God, my memory. Uh, 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 oh yes, right. Wagon trains in space.
That actually makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I don't know if that's apocryphal, but it's a great story. It makes sense, and she took the chance. She did take the chance, and she had always relied on Desi to make those decisions, but they were divorced, and it was hard for her to make those decisions because look at the money that was being at as a potential loss, But she had balls. I, I'll say one more thing. Uh, she's in the book, and so of course is my wife. And I'm not going to tell you where or when, but you got to go look at it or listen to it, and you will hear it. And
Oh, absolutely.
I had uh, great respect and admiration for her, and even at the very end, I had love for her. But she didn't like me very much. She didn't think I was the right person for her daughter, and I can understand why. I'm 17 years older, and I had 2 kids already, and she was thinking of career for Lucy. And Lucy uh, and I have been married 45 years, and we are the best of friends. So take that, Mama.
I'm sure she's looking down saying, I think I may have been wrong.
I doubt it. She never said she was wrong.
It's the redhead in her.
Yeah, yeah. Well, she had a very tough life growing up.
Well, Larry, thank you very much for taking time out to talk with us. Please send our love to your lovely wife.
I will.
And this should be available on YouTube on Sunday about midnight. I told Elizabeth today that I will send her a link when the post-production is done. So when the episode is formed, I'll send it to Elizabeth.
Thank you so much.
No problem. Thank you for stopping by tonight.
Well, this has been absolute fun. Thank you. And when you arrive at Jupiter, let me know, will you?
I'll send you a subspace message.
Yes. It's a lot of light years yet.
Definitely. Thank you, Larry. I'll talk to you later.
Thanks very much.
Bye.
Bye.
And now it's time to open this quarter's Curiosity Box. All Curiosity Boxes come with a card that tells you what's inside. Comes with a Curiosity magazine, which I enjoy, and gives you the background on some of the projects. Along with that, this quarter we have stickers. They're math stickers based on math problems in geometry. This is a puzzle of sorts. Let me try to figure out how to open this box. I later figured out that it's actually magnetically secured. Oop, like that. So this puzzle fits on your keychain, and you can make those little balls go between the coin. I'm still trying to figure it out, but it is an interesting puzzle. Let's put that back. So along with that, every Curiosity Box that you get every 3 months also includes a t-shirt. This quarter's t-shirt is what Uranus would look like if it was compressed into a black hole. And then there's the Everyday Carry tool. I'm still learning this. Then there's the Human Body cards. This is basically a card version of the Human Body book. I'll do a more detailed segment on that later. And then there's a math book for all you math wizards. The first 6 books of the Elements of Euclid. And this segment is a review of It's Only a Paper Moon, the Deep Space Nine Season 7 episode. I watched this after I did our interview with the Obsidian Fleet podcast and re-reviewed it. And I got to say, this opens up just like we'd expect it to. Everybody's at the gate waiting for Rom to come back from his extended medical leave. The ship empties and everybody's like, "Where's Rom?" So Rom comes out, everybody greets him to an apparent hero's welcome. And then we start seeing that Rom has signs and symptoms of PTSD. As we go through the episode, we see the anger. He snaps at Jake's girlfriend because she called him a hero. He doesn't feel like a hero, which is common. He goes through and then discovers Vix and discovers he likes Vix and he decides he wants to stay at Vix. So, being the forward-thinking counselor she is, Esri lets him go with it. I think this episode was incredibly well done. It was very sensitive to the effects of PTSD on people, and it was very accurate. I think Ira Stephen Bear did a very, very good job with this, sticking to his guns, so to speak, that he was going to serialize the last two seasons of Deep Space Nine. So it very much allowed for this to become, by many accounts, one of the best PTSD episodes that Star Trek has ever tackled until Discovery came along. Um, that being said, out of five deltas, I definitely give this one like 5.5 because it was very well done. It was very well written. The acting was spot on as far as the emotions that needed to be brought up and made relevant. And obviously, the ending, not to spoil it for anybody who might not have seen it before, the ending was very much on point with um, the emotional support network that somebody dealing with PTSD has to have. So I definitely give it 5.5 out of 5 stars for how well written it was and how performed. We'll be back momentarily with our next segment.